to another episode, Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of incredible entrepreneurs such as my new best friend, Michael Peters, man. The name of your company is going to be one of the, of course, it's got the biblical name to it, Lazarus Alliance. Is that because you bring companies from the dead? Why Lazarus?
Well, that's not the first time I've heard that. And that tends to be the common thought
right.
Thread out there. There's actually a very a little known fact about the origin of that name, and that really has to do with my youngest son, who is Lazarus.
Oh.
So my wife and I, Lazarus is our son together, and when we put the business together, quite a while ago, she thought of the name, and I thought, Lazarus Alliance. That sounds like we're bringing companies from the dead. That's awesome.
Yeah, and of course, named after your son. You're probably, and I'm going to say this with probably a 98% of certainty, but you have to be one of the most sought after companies in the last month or 2 months. And tell us why. And correct me if I am wrong.
Well, I'm looking forward to that trend. I have to say that cybersecurity is hot.
Yep.
And of course I have mixed emotions about that from an entrepreneurial, a business perspective. Business is good because breaches are happening all the time. I mean, you can't get away from the news or the papers or anything like that without hearing about somebody who's been affected.
They're happening more often.
Absolutely, it is escalating.
Okay.
The bad guys and girls are getting better. They're organized. In many instances, they're well funded because of either syndication or nation state, funding. So it's a pretty scary landscape, particularly if you're in the SMB space. So we know the SMB space is any company under 500 employees, which to me sounds like a big company.
Sure.
But statistics, the analysis tells us that basically 100 employee or fewer companies, they're basically 70% of all the breach activity is against those organizations.
Why is that?
Well, they tend to be a little underfunded, underrepresented in the cybersecurity and GRC space. GRC is governance, risk, and compliance.
Okay, so those type of companies, if I understand correctly, they much rather put their resources into marketing, research and development, etc. And then cybersecurity probably comes a distant fourth, maybe, or fifth?
So that's definitely part of the equation.
Okay.
Another part is they're smaller organizations, so funding is a little bit, more scarce.
It's tight, sure.
So, when you're faced with, do I throw more money at, my budget at marketing and employees and, and business development.
Sure.
Something that maybe you hadn't experienced before, a cyber breach or some sort of situation like that, it's very much like we have, automobile insurance or we have business insurance. Most of the time you don't take advantage of it. You keep on paying and paying and paying. You're awfully glad when you have an accident that you invested that money.
Right. And then you have the insurance to cover for it.
Similarly with cybersecurity, these organizations don't necessarily think about it, because it doesn't happen that often. But the unfortunate thing is, the analysis also backs this up, but roughly 60% of all small businesses are out of business within 6 months post-breach. So I mean, basically
wow.
It just devastates a business.
So let me ask you this. Do companies call you before they need you, or do companies call you after the cyber crime has been committed?
Right. People tend to come to us in a panic. Something's wrong. Now, our business model, we focus on what we refer to as proactive cybersecurity.
Prevention, basically.
Absolutely.
All right.
We have learned, being in the business for a very long time and watching, how companies recover or not from these events, that you can throw so much money at hardware, fancy hardware for security and software. It's really the wetware, the human, that brings it all down, because people are tricked, they're coaxed into clicking on that link or introducing that malware.
This is very real.
Absolutely.
And at the beginning of our conversation, you're talking about maybe government sponsored. You're talking about syndicates.
Yep.
This is very real. There's
It's a
actually,
business.
I was going to say there is a dark business out there that it's dedicated their life to breaking into your system.
Right, stealing, your money, financial theft, intellectual property, which of course gives companies, it gives countries, individuals, absolutely. It's information that they didn't have to pay for in their R&D budgets, and they just steal it, and then they profit from it. So, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, hacking was really about notoriety. Oh, I defaced your website, or I got into your email account,
Right.
or I changed your website to something wacky or whatever.
Right.
Now it's all about profit. Totally.
It's all about profit, and it's very profitable. Otherwise, not too many people would
Right.
be in the business to get inside your computer.
Right. So they're organized. It's not so often that it's a lone wolf, an individual doing this. They tend to be well organized. Nowadays, they're well funded, and because they have a high degree of success in getting away with those digital crimes, the profit motive incentive is just overwhelming.
It's hard to imagine, and you're validating a thought that I had. It's hard to imagine, as recently one politician put it, that there may be a 400-pound guy maybe hack it into a computer. That's probably very unlikely,
Right.
because these are very sophisticated people.
Absolutely. Cyber crimes, hacking, the art of hacking, and it takes a lot of skill. It's complex. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error, a lot of technical knowledge. Human hacking, I mentioned earlier about
Yep.
the wetware.
Sure.
So some people call it social engineering. I call it human hacking. That is the easiest way to break into a company. It's the most common threat vector against organizations. 100% of the breaches that are, post-analysis over the past, easily, I'll just say 2 years, but it's probably longer, 100% of those big breaches were totally because of human hacking.
That's incredible. So,
Yep.
for me, it's very hard to fathom. 500 million accounts.
Yahoo,
Oh, Yahoo.
right?
How do you take so? And this is probably something that it just didn't happen overnight, but probably they were doing this thing for a number of months, perhaps a number of years, undetected, right?
So, generally speaking, once you've been invaded by cyber criminals, they tend to stick around for, on average, 200 days. So
Without you knowing, of course,
That's right.
that they're there.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, that's a whole lot of playtime. If you think about it, they've effectively created a beachhead within your organization to do reconnaissance, to harvest information, to gradually take your intellectual property, financial transactions, to intersect all of this stuff, to impersonate other employees, to escalate their privileges and things like that. It's a lot of patience, a lot of persistence. You want to be as quiet as you possibly can so you remain undetected. So, there's a lot of skill and patience involved in
I'm
this.
still waiting for the Russian hacker to hack into my credit report so that they can jack it up. I mean, I'll pay money for that.
Right. Share the love.
Lazarus Alliance, Michael, man. I mean, you're just incredible. You're at the right place at the right time in the right environment right now. I mean, you're one of the best companies here in Arizona doing this thing and just preventing the cyber security. So it's better to call you before anything happens, right? I mean, is that
Completely.
what we're deducing out of this interview? Is that?
Absolutely. We really try to emphasize being proactive.
Yeah.
From a service standpoint, we are the only, I'll underscore
Yep.
that, only Arizona cybersecurity firm that has the level of accreditation and authorizations that we do to do the work that we do. So IT audit and compliance,
Yep.
risk assessment and risk management, governance and policy development, and then we have our cybervisor consulting type services to fill in the gaps there.
I can't let you go without you showing what you do.
Oh, in honor of your motif,
Yes.
I had to wear the cufflinks.
You gotta show it. Bring it up a little bit closer. You gotta check it out.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're man to my heart, man. You're my new best friend.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
pleasure.
With that, we're out.